Hello, it's a fifth line day. We are in gate 56, the gate of the wanderer, the storyteller, the gate of stimulation. And it is the fifth line, which is called attracting attention. Everything about these primary gates of communication, or gates of primary communication even, is not to forget that that is what they are. These are not gates of action. They are only gates of communication. What happens so often to people who have this gift to stimulate is that they think that this gift automatically means the ability to turn it into action. And that's not true. The gift of being able to stimulate, to tell stories, and the value of the 56 is about sharing what it is to be human with others. Our whole mental process is so that we can come to grips with what it is to be a human being and live in this world. It's not about dictating what we do. The mind can't tell you what to do. It doesn't matter whether it's defined or undefined, connected to the throat or not. It doesn't make any difference. It is not going to be able to tell you what to do, and it is never going to work for you in that way. The mind does not do that. It's not its job to do that. Its job is not to tell us what to do, but to examine the nature of our doing and to look at our process. And it acts as an outer authority for others. This stimulation is not about getting people to do something, then. It is there to share the awareness of what it is to be human. That's what it's all about. Because we live on the mental plane and we have been deeply conditioned to think that what we think is what we should do, or what we would like to think is what we would like to do, and all of the things that go with that, we end up in a horrible place in which human beings like to take all of these ideas really, really seriously and treat them as a game plan for life. I have this wonderful idea. Why don't we all jump off the side of this bridge and see how many of us survive? Yay. An idea is not necessarily something that requires any kind of doing. An idea is about stimulating each other, about the nature of what it is to be here in this world. When you get to the fifth line, you get to universalization. The way the world sees this gate of stimulation is as something that attracts attention. And that's what it does. And this is the line of attracting attention. And here again, we have a resonance to the second line. In the second line, we see that all second line people are projecting out without necessarily knowing the depth underneath, and all fifth line people are being projected on. If you're a 56-5, then every time that someone comes into your aura, their projection is that you're a storyteller, that you are a stimulating conversationalist. That may or may not be true, but that's still going to be their projection on you. So imagine that you're having a dinner party and you want to make sure that there is somebody there who keeps everybody talking. You're going to pick a fifth line because they are the ones that you project on. This one's okay, this one's really stimulating, but it's only a projection. If you have a fifth line, wherever it is, whatever gate, the outside world will project onto that. And that means something very special. What that means is that the outside is going to give you an opportunity to tell your story. And if you're a lousy storyteller, too bad. But the outside world will give you that opportunity because they will project on you that you are a stimulator and that you have a story to tell them. In the exaltation, we find unusualness, innovation, and sometimes genius as guarantees of eventually attracting attention and support. Stimulation at its most innovative and unusual. There are only 6 examples of this word genius in the lines of the Rave I Ching. I mentioned this back in 56.2. So 2 of them are in this hexagram. It's a very special gift to be able to stimulate others. It's so important for us. History is the fuel of our evolution. We can retell the entire story of our life, and each generation will gain the benefit of that. Each generation builds on the stories of the previous one, because stories are how we store our history. It's something to consider that in the first 7 years of a human's life, they can get the history of knowledge of this planet. And we keep on getting better and better at assimilating this knowledge, or at least making it available. Maybe I'm not sure if we assimilate it so much better. But that's why there's so much value and importance in this gate, because it's the voice of history. It doesn't mean it's true. You have to hear all of the voices of history in order to recognize the truth of the totality, but each one is a necessary ingredient in the soup of experience. So attracting attention, this projection that the 56.5 can stimulate you, this projection that before the 56.5 even speaks, you're ready to believe them, it can be very powerful. Notice that the line says eventually attracting attention and support, not immediately attracting attention and support. It takes time for this quality to be recognized. It takes time for it to mature. One of the main places in the life, the Uranus opposition, this is the prana point of life. If you think about the first half of your life, you're breathing in until this midlife point, and then you exhale. As long as you're breathing in, you're learning. And then at the moment you reach that midline point, then that's the moment what you've taken in begins to come together and flower. And it will take 7 years from your midlife point before that's in full force. And then you live the breathing out. So this business of attracting attention, it comes with maturity. They will be the best at their storytelling after their midlife point, always assuming they get to that point. In the detriment, we have all too often the tendency to attract attention that is self-defeating in its effects. The power stimulation to provoke and disturb. I'm just going to check that I've read that right. Hold on a minute. The power of stimulation to provoke and disturb. I left a word out. The power of stimulation to provoke and disturb. Sorry about that. The fifth line is the heretic. Here you can stimulate people and try to get them to believe that, I don't know, be a Herod, all firstborns should be sacrificed. And you can get into a lot of trouble because people believe you. So a very influential line in that way. These people can be very distracting forces. Human beings get into the most trouble when they think that the 56th gate is telling them what to do instead of telling them what has happened. The abstract mind is there to be able to express to us, to make sense for us, what it is to be human. But it's not there to tell us what we should be doing in the future. That's the job of logic. So the abstract is very distracting. It can attract attention and it can take people away from what is logical and either fill them with despair or with hope and then send them off into the night. Every time that you have a fifth line, you have to recognize that the more you mature into the nature of that hexagram, it takes time. All of these processes take time. You get to a point where at that moment that projection is on you, you are genuinely ready to respond. That's your maturity. And there's a gift that lies in here, but there is always that pressure of projection. This is a line where it's very difficult for people who are intrinsic liars. The moment you have an intrinsic genetic liar, and we have gates that bring that quality out, then you have somebody that will be projected on all their life that they are simply a storyteller and they're not to be believed. And of course, there's nothing more that a fifth line wants than to be believed. Now, they want you to believe them, and everybody who comes to these people wants to believe them. I want to believe you're telling me the truth, but my projection says that you're lying. This is part of the process that the 5 has to deal with. It says the power of stimulation to provoke and disturb. The moment that you have a projected force coming at you, people come with their projection which means that they do not see you. So depending on what you bring back to them, they can be made quite uncomfortable in that process. And everything about what we consider stimulation gets hooked into this. So we have the traditions throughout our history of the traveling storyteller, the wanderer. Now we live in a world of online and internet storytelling, of television and film, which is all part of this archetype of attracting attention. Gate 60 in the line 5 is called leadership. So the sun is attracting attention, either to provoke and disturb or to be innovative and unusual. Either way, it's a projection, and if you get it wrong, there can be repercussions on your reputation. So to have the role of leadership being projected onto you as well, that could be a positive grounding force from the earth here when you're correct with your stimulating storytelling, or it could be damaging if you are not correct with your stimulating storytelling. And perhaps you use that projection of leadership to provoke and disturb others, which I guess, as always, brings us back to strategy and authority. So Venus goes into gate 7 at 12:07, the army, the role of the self in interaction. We've had this gate quite a lot through this last few days, through one transit or another. It's the logical G center gate, and it's looking towards the future with an ability to see the direction that humanity is taking, being influential in pointing the collective towards a new way. It's a projector gate, so it needs to be invited to take the leadership role, or before it whispers in the ear of the leaders, because it's known as the power behind the throne. The moon is still in gate 19 in the root center, moving into the G center, into gate 13 at 10:46. This is the fellowship of man, the gate of the listener. This is where universal ideas and values come together in an ordered framework, which inspires humanistic cooperation, or not. It's a gate of memory. It starts the reflective process, collecting and remembering things of personal value that can also be of value to the community, to the collective. If you have this gate, you're possessed with a natural gift for listening, and you're probably open to hearing other people's experiences and adventures. You may be sharing your own with them, being seen as a confidant to share secrets with, or not. And we do have a channel here with Venus, but it's only for a couple of hours before she moves into gate 7. And this is the channel that completes the cycle of experience by reflecting on experience and eventually bringing something of value to the collective through contemplation. The moon then moves into the solar plexus, gate 49 at 20:03. This is revolution, the gate of principles. It's a gate which may feel the need to correct the imbalanced or the unjust distribution of resources, things like food or shelter, and the basic tribal needs, because this is tribal here in 49. So there's interaction which is determined through one's principles. And it's a gate of rejection and acceptance. So you can stand and fall on your principles, and you can stand and fall on your sacrifice too. Then we move into another solar plexus gate. This is gate 30 at 5:19 tomorrow morning, the clinging fire, the gate of feelings. Freedom recognized as an illusion and limitation accepted as a fate. There can be a powerful yearning here to fulfill one's dreams, and an often compelling need for change. That was my alarm. What was my alarm set for? Oh well, something won't get done. Probably to finish this and let you good people get on with your day. So gate 30, the process of reaching fulfillment, again through interaction. It's a collective gate, and it is subject to the ups and downs of the emotional wave. And it brings a possibility for surrender to what life brings and to the acceptance of limitations. So that's the 56.5. We move into the final line of this hexagram tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you then. Yes, take care and go gently.